My boyfriend and I have been through some trying times over the past 4 years, and through it all we've been each other's support. We complement each other so well. Long story short, he's the love of my life. When we first met, he was unemployed after recently quitting his job as an EMT. He said he was unsatisfied because he didn't feel like it was for him and was searching for direction. He mentioned before that he's always had a passion for cooking, so I urged him to follow his gut and do what would bring him happiness. I encouraged him to enroll in culinary school. Since then, he's moved up quickly, and after graduating and 2 years in the industry, he opened a hot new restaurant as sous chef. He's really come alive since switching industries. He's got this fiery energy, this sparkle in his eyes when talking about the action in the kitchen, new recipes he's come up with, or dreams of opening his own restaurant. I'm extremely proud of his accomplishments, and seeing this amazing passion he has for what he does makes me love him even more. He inspires me to follow my dreams. The thing is, I had no idea how demanding his career would be. I've never worked in the restaurant industry, and I've never personally met another chef before I started dating one. He works crazy hours, 70, sometimes 80 hours a week. We don't live together, and I only see him for a few hours on the weekends when I can stay up late. Half that time we're asleep because it's 3 in the morning, I'm sleepy, and he's exhausted. He's got 1 day off a week, if that, which is pretty much the only time he has to relax, catch up with family, friends, and me. I'm a 9-5er and I'm asleep by the time he gets off work. I speak to him twice a day if I'm lucky. Once in the morning, which is a rushed 5-minute conversation since I'm at work, and once in the evening when he gets off work, which I hardly even remember because I'm asleep and only half conscious. We can't text while he's working, which is all the time. He works every holiday. Thanksgiving, Christmas, New Year's, Valentine's Day are all busy restaurant days. Birthdays and anniversaries are not guaranteed off either. Through it all, I've been super supportive. I've gotten kind of used to him not being around. I've taken up yoga and kickboxing and have started reading way more books and watching way more movies. I've even kind of gotten used to going to parties and events alone. Most days are okay. I keep myself so busy with friends and hobbies that I sometimes forget I miss him so much. But other days are horrible. Yesterday he told me he made plans to see his friends in the evening when they got off work. After we hung up, I broke down in tears because I had been looking forward to seeing him all week. But I can't even be mad. It's his only free day, and it's not fair for me to take up all his time. We hardly ever have sex. There's just no time and no energy. When we do spend time together on those rare Mondays, we don't go out because he's so tired. I cherish these moments just cuddled up on the couch because they don't happen often. I don't speak to him about my feelings of loneliness because I don't want to burden him with my emotions on his sole day of relaxation, especially since that's just the nature of the industry and he can't do anything about it. This is the guy I want to grow old with and have babies with. He's the one with whom I want to share the future. But then I think about how I feel on days like today, and I wonder if his career will ever allow him to be present. Am I okay with eating every meal and spending every holiday alone? Can I take on the responsibilities of the household and raising children essentially like a single parent? Can I deal with him only being home long enough to sleep? We're planning on moving in together within the next 6 months. I'm not sure if this will help our relationship or just prolong the inevitable. Maybe both. It's been tough and I know it will only get tougher. I love him so much, but I don't know if I'm strong enough. I have to figure out what it is I need, and I'm terrified at the thought that maybe he can't give it to me. Just thinking about leaving him over the career I pushed him toward makes me feel sick to my stomach. We finally had our much-needed conversation last night. I felt horrible for bringing up such heavy topics right after he came home from work, stressed and exhausted, but it's the only time we ever have. I asked him the big questions. What's your 5-year career plan? Can you realistically work in a kitchen for the rest of your life? Is that what you really want? And at the mention of working in a kitchen for the rest of his life, behind eyelids drooping with exhaustion and the dark bags under them, came the sparkle and fire that I adore and feared would appear during this conversation. I want to run my own kitchen. I want to own my own restaurant. I'm making a name for myself and people are noticing. I want this, and I know I can do it. I asked him if he realized what that meant in terms of raising a family, which he always said he wanted. He said it would stay like this. 12 to 16-hour shifts every day, getting home after midnight. His head hung down and told me we could make it work. I can have breakfast with the family every morning and take the kids to school, he suggested. I told him I needed more from a partner. I want a normal life. I want to have dinner every night as a family. I want to read to our kids together at night. I want holidays and birthdays. He told me he can't give me any of that. I was hoping and praying the entire time that he would reformulate his career path. Maybe set his eyes on a comparable goal that would make a home life possible, but there's no comparison. After hours of talking, we realized this just wouldn't work. If we stayed together, either I would resent him for never being around, or he would resent me for making me give up his dream. I would never strip him of that. This is the most difficult thing I've ever had to do. I almost wish he was an abusive, cheating asshole. It would make moving on way easier. But no, he's wonderful and has always been so good to me. We're very much in love, and that's what makes this whole thing so horrible. I never envisioned a future without him, and he said he always thought he'd be sharing life's successes with me. I wish I could be the one standing next to him through it all, but I'm just not cut out for the life he's offering me. And although I am glad we figured out our incompatibilities before marriage and children, I'm devastated. Okay, so I, 26F, have a wonderful, wonderful boyfriend, 25M, and I just want to stress how lovely he is and how happy I am. He looks at me in a way no other guy has, and he actually makes me feel like I'm wanted and like I'm valuable, and I just feel so lucky to have this man in my life. One more thing about him, he's also autistic, so he struggles with a few things, but honestly, that doesn't mean shit to me because he's brilliant and extremely capable. So I made a post about this about 2 months ago, but I brought my boyfriend over to my parents' house, and my parents and I are Japanese, and my boyfriend is white. They made him ramen last time and got extremely offended and furious when he tried to eat it with a fork and spoon instead of chopsticks, which scared and surprised him and he cried. My parents agreed to invite him over and give him another chance. My boyfriend cooked his fettuccine alfredo for them, and he actually took the time to try to learn about Japanese culture, and he even spent a week learning how to say, "Hi, Mr. and Mrs., my last name. Thank you for being so generous and inviting me into your home and having me." In Japanese. He was really excited to meet them again, and I was really excited too. When we got there, my boyfriend spoke in Japanese to them, and then they went, "Why don't you just stick to what you know," and laughed. Then he tried to give them the pasta he made, and my mom said it was okay because she was making food, so he suggested they put it in the fridge for later, and she actually said to him, "It'll probably go to better use at your home, so why don't you just bring it back?" I could tell my boyfriend's feelings were hurt, but he told me not to say anything and that he wanted to win them over. Over the course of the evening, my parents criticized my boyfriend's job/profession, a production assistant on film/TV, and gave a horrified look when he said it was his dream job, and they were asking invasive questions about his pay rate, and then they were extremely judgmental of the fact that he only had an associate's degree from a community college, and they flat out laughed when he said it took him 5 years to finally graduate. He has learning issues and mental health struggles, so it took him a bit longer to finish. I was there defending him and trying to get them to stop, but my boyfriend again said it was fine. All throughout this, my parents were making snarky comments to each other in Japanese, and my boyfriend knew they were talking about him. Finally, the straw that broke the camel's back came when they brought out ramen and said, "Oh, we forgot to get you your spoon and fork. Sorry, give us back those chopsticks." My boyfriend just lost it at this point. He threw his chopsticks down and asked what the hell was their deal, and then said he was actively trying to make a connection with them and they had just been giving bullshit in response. My parents were appalled and extremely offended, but my boyfriend wasn't taking any shit from them. I had never seen him stand up for himself like that before. Then he started talking about how he doesn't have the highest form of education or the highest paying job, but he does have a lot of love in his heart and wants to give me all of it because he loves me and I make him feel like no other person has before. My dad then asked if it was his learning issues that make him this emotional, and he said he was leaving and got up and left the house. I asked my parents why they were so horrible to them, and they said I was a fool for bringing home a dunce like him and I'd be a fool if I actually decided to stay with him. I started to cry and told them they had no idea what was best for me and that if they can't accept the love of my life, then I never wanted to fucking talk to them again. I went to the car where my boyfriend was still fuming, but then he saw I was crying and started apologizing that it went down like that. I told him I was so sorry for bringing him to them and I'd never do it again. We rode most of the way home in silence and we haven't said much to each other since. He's sleeping right now and I want to talk to him when he wakes up, but I have zero idea what to do. I really don't want to choose between my parents and him, but it was completely unacceptable and cruel how they treated him.